Confronted my husband after my sister was falsely accused of slander by his family, deepening a long-standing family feud. My sister, 33F, and I, 30F, are not close. We always catch up on birthdays, weddings and similar family events, but we are not friends. This is partially because we are very different and partially because she doesn't approve of my marriage. My husband is 12 years older than me and we started dating when I was 18. My husband and his family don't like my sister because she is openly feminist and doesn't care about gender norms in marriage. Now, the problem: we hosted a birthday party for my son a few days ago. I had a headache, so I was upstairs when I heard my Mill and husband arguing inside. He stormed in our room, said that Mill says that my sister called my Sil a whore, said that she is ugly and fat, and then left. I said that my sister haven't said that, because she would never called another woman those type of derogatory words, and husband said that Mill was there and heard everything and I wasn't. To which I said that then Mill is lying and that would be out of character for my sister to say something like that. He called me an a-hole and says that I don't even like my sister and that I get along better with Mill anyway, so how I can call her a liar. He has been on the phone with Mill and Sil whole day, and I have been made to be this huge jerk. Reason why I said that is that those type of words sound like something that my Sil and Mill would use, not my sister. Later, I talked with sister and she says that she was helping put together a swing in backyard when Sil said that she is again in men business and that she should be helping with food, to which my sister told her to F off already, took her keys and left with her husband. Update 1. For clarification, we dated for 9 months and married when I was 18. I turned 31 few days ago and can't imagine being attracted to 18-year-old, let alone marrying one, but I didn't think like that back then. Whatever happens with my marriage, I am not having another child. I won't change my mind when it comes to that. I am on birth control, but I also have no desire to have sex with my husband after how he reacted and treated me. I don't have parents and I really don't want to go to friends with this. I called my sister, Madison, and told her everything. A lot of things that you guys said in the comments, she has been saying for years. She showed up with food, wine and her husband. Bill took my kids to their house for a sleepover and Madison stayed with me. My husband is still with his parents, didn't call or text. My Mill called, but I didn't pick up. I'm too angry and sad to have a conversation with her. Update 2. For ones who don't want to read a long post, things turned ugly, but I am safe and I decided to get a divorce since husband and I couldn't agree on how a marriage should look like. Now for a long update. Morning after I made this post, my Mill and Sil showed up at my house. At this point there was still no word from my husband. Let's call him Ray. It was obvious that they expected me to be alone. My kids were with Bill at my sister, Madison's, house. She was with me, so we all sat down to have a conversation. I know I was being annoying, but I kept repeating that I don't see a point of that. Conversation should happen between Ray and me. We are grown-ups and married. I didn't see a reason for them to meddle. They took great offense to that. My Mill at one point said that she doesn't understand what happened to me. I am not the girl her son married anymore. I said of course I'm not. He married a teenager and am now a grown woman. She turned beet red and started screaming at me, to which Madison said she is going to call police if she doesn't calm down. After a few insults, mostly how I'm abusing her son and how bad of a mother I am, they left. Ray showed up a few hours later. Not to ask about our children or to see how I am, but to berate me on how I treated his mother. Again, I think Madison being there changed his plan, since he toned it down when she came downstairs. He demanded for her to leave. She refused and said that she is going to go upstairs so we can have a conversation, but she is not going anywhere until I ask her to, which I didn't. He started with basically saying that I am bad wife, that I don't love him since I don't want more kids, and I blamed him for it. I shouldn't be speaking with him like that. He is a great father to our kids, etc. I asked which kids? Kids he hasn't seen in 3 days and didn't ask how or where are they? He then freaked out when I told him they are at Bill and Madison's house, calling them both vile names that I don't want to repeat. Our conversation lasted an hour and nothing productive came out of it. We were going in circles. I was scared because he multiple times started grinding his teeth and putting his hands in fists, but he would calm down after a few seconds. I said if he is not willing to work on our marriage and thinks that he is completely in the right, we should get a divorce. He, at first said fine, if that's what I should pack my stuff and leave. I started packing. He ranted how I'm going to live without him, how he can't wait for me to explain to kids why they are moving and similar. I said that kids are not moving anywhere. They are staying in the house, and which parent stays here is taking care of them. He really couldn't comprehend what I'm saying. I am not turning our kids' lives upside down. Divorce is enough of a change. They are not going anywhere. Then his tune changed. He was willing to hear me out. I swear I thought I'm going to pop a blood vessel from rage. I said I don't care anymore. We are getting a divorce. Only questions are about logistics and our kids. To not make this post even longer, this also went in circles. Then he grabbed my shoulders and started shaking me. Madison got involved. They started pushing each other. I called the police. We managed to push him through the door and locked it. He left before police came. We gave statements and I stayed at the house. I am fine, but Madison has a few scratches. Currently am bombarded with text from his family. Again, not a peep from him. I am filing for divorce. I don't know why I thought that this can end any differently, but I'm also glad that I tried. For people who found mine previous posts, I am ashamed of how I was speaking about Madison. but I was envious until I realized that I was projecting my unhappiness with my life onto her. She didn't deserve it. She was and still is amazing sister and even better person. Update 3. I am officially divorced as of this morning. We signed the papers few days ago, but today I got divorce certificate. So much has happened, I don't think people would believe me if I tried to type it all, so I'm going to do just most important stuff. In the weeks after I made my post, my ex Ray decided that he wants to work on our marriage, that he will try to be a better husband and win me back. That mostly consisted of him harassing me, calling me constantly from multiple numbers, sending me flowers, chocolates and candy, I don't even eat sweets, and showing up randomly at places where I regularly go. We live in a small town, around 15k people, so it became town's gossip. It felt like everyone was talking about me. My ex Mill tried really hard to paint me as some mentally unstable, nasty person who just one day decided to destroy a family. She attacked me at a child's birthday party when I was dropping off my son, Sill's child birthday. Then she tried to say bad things about me to my kids. Luckily Ray put a stop to that. She did everything and anything to make me feel like shit, whilst saying that she would like nothing more than for Ray and me to be back together. I didn't want to keep her from my kids, so I let them spend time with her, Phil, Sill and her kids. She took my kids to the park, that she knows I think is unsafe. It is unsafe, old and rusty. She also took them to buy them shoes. I know this is a weird thing to be angry and hurt about, but I have some childhood trauma and I need to know that they shoes fit right and are not too small. It's not a big thing overall, but she did it intentionally to hurt me. I lost it when I came to pick them up and was told they bought new shoes. Everyone was there, Mill, Phil, Sill, Bill, Ray, so I just screamed at everyone. I called Mill names that I didn't even know I knew, told Ray that he is spineless, worthless excuse for a man, called Phil a houseplant. It makes more sense in my language. Basically I called him useless, and told Sill that she is very brave when she gossips but is a doormat to her husband and mother. Luckily, kids were outside so they know we were fighting but didn't hear what was said. Nobody said anything to me, they were shocked. I had to call my sister on my way home cause I didn't think I could drive, so I parked and waited. She picked me up, we put kids to bed and I just cried. I think I cried for 5 hours straight. I hated who I become, I was sad or angry all the time, everyone annoyed me, it was just awful. It did get better. Next time Ray cornered me in a grocery store, I threatened to call the police. And when he kept calling, I actually did. Police told me that they will give him a warning. They told him that next time he tries to speak to me and is not directly about children, he will spend the night in jail and he would get harassment charges. Police officer also gave me his personal number if I want clarification on what can be reported. Again, small place, we went to the same school. I joined a group that my sister started, where we do things in a community, like we would get together and pick trash from parks, paint fences, or benches, get older people to appointments or get them groceries, things like that. I started cleaning a house of an older lady with cancer who lives alone. She insisted to start paying me and combined with my part-time job and rent, me and my sister inherited a house from our mother that we rent out and split the money. Now I have a decent income. After many awful, exhausting weeks, Ray agreed to divorce me. I agreed to not get alimony if I get to stay in the house with kids, only child support. I don't want my kids to suffer, but it did make me sad that they didn't seem to miss their father. School therapists talked with them and they are fine, they accept the divorce, as much as they understand, due to their age. We had a lot of conversations about what this means for them, me and Ray. They are good, well-adjusted children. It made me feel stupid and incompetent. What I was doing all this years. Doing everything for a man that was such a bad parent that his kids don't even miss him? How dumb am I? I started going outside more, spend more time with people and it's great. Turns out that no matter how much Mill tried, it's hard to convince people that I am a bad person, since a lot of them know me since I was a child and they also know my ex-husband's family. So there's that. Update 4. I thought things were finally settling. Papers were signed, I had the certificate, the kids were doing fine with school and the therapist said they were handling the changes as well as they could. I wasn't keeping them from anyone. I let them go see their grandparents for dinner because they asked and because I kept telling myself I'm not going to be that parent. I dropped them off around 5 and told Mill I'd be back a little after 7. She gave me that sugary smile she does when she's up to something and said of course. At 7 I pulled up and the house lights were on. I could see my kids' faces in the front window and they were in pajamas. That annoyed me right away because I said dinner, not a sleepover, but I walked up to the door like normal. Mill opened it just enough to fill the doorway and didn't move. They want to stay with us tonight, she said. No. It's a school night, I said and reached for the handle. She put her hand up. Their father's on his way. I said I didn't care who was on his way and to please move so I can get my children. I could hear them behind her, their feet patting on the hardwood, whispering to each other. Then I saw Ray's truck pull up behind me. He got out with a folder and that smirk he gets when he thinks he's being clever. He held up a piece of paper like he was serving me a subpoena on TV. Temporary order. Judge signed it this afternoon. I didn't even read it at first. I stared at him and then at Mill. I asked what they were talking about. He said something about safety concerns and how this is just temporary until a hearing. My chest hurt like I'd been punched. I told him to move, my kids needed to go home. He laughed. Mill, of course, looked at the ceiling like it was all out of her hands. I pulled out my phone and called the officer who gave me his number when I reported the harassment. He picked up on the second ring. I told him where I was and what Ray was saying. He told me to take a photo of the order and send it to him. I snapped it, texted him, then put him on speaker. He said it looked like a valid ex-parte order, signed late in the day. He also said it was temporary, and there would be a hearing very soon. He told me it was a civil matter and he couldn't make them hand over the kids if the order said they were to stay with their father for immediate safety. He said I needed to call a lawyer first thing in the morning and that he would note my call. While I'm on the phone with him, my kids peeked around Mill and started crying when they saw me. I told them it was okay, I'd be back in the morning. Mill said, "All sweet, we'll take good care of them." I wanted to knock her out. Instead, I asked if I could hug them goodnight. She said we should not confuse them and she'd bring them to the door. She cracked it open enough for me to kiss their foreheads. They asked if they were moving to Grandma's. I said no, it was just one night. I told them to brush their teeth and get sleep. My daughter shoved something into my coat pocket. Later I found out it was her little squishy toy. I left before I did something I couldn't undo. I sat in my car and shook hard enough that my teeth hurt. I called Madison. She said she'd meet me at my house and we'd figure it out. On the drive home I remembered what happened a few days earlier. Wednesday morning, around 8:30, I was cleaning the kitchen before heading out when there was a knock. A woman with a badge introduced herself from CPS. She said there had been a report of neglect and some worrying statements about me screaming every night and locking the children in their rooms. I actually laughed because it sounded so ridiculous and then stopped because she wasn't laughing. She said she needed to take a look around and talk to me. I let her in. I showed her the pantry, the fridge, the kids' rooms, bathrooms. Laundry was going, beds made, the usual mess of an actual house but nothing crazy. She wasn't there long. She asked gentle questions like how often we see their dad, how pickup works, if the kids have a bedtime, if anyone else lives here. I answered everything. She said she had no immediate concerns but the report would be logged and she might follow up, depending on what her supervisor says. I asked who reported it and she said it was anonymous. I didn't have to be a genius to know exactly where it came from. I texted Ray, "Tell your mother to stop," and he wrote back accusing my mom of caring about the kids as sick. I told him to leave me alone and blocked his number again. I told Madison. She said to start a folder. So when I walked into my house after Mill blocked the door and Ray flashed that order, I already had some of what I needed. Madison showed up 20 minutes later with Bill, both of them in sweats. She took one look at me and didn't say the usual "Are you okay?" She set her laptop on the table and got to work. First call was to the officer. He gave me the number of a lawyer who used to work in the prosecutor's office before starting her firm. I called and left a message. Madison texted the school therapist we'd been working with and asked if she could write a letter about how the kids were doing and if she had any concerns. We didn't tell details, just emergency hearing and they need stability. She wrote back, "I'll have something by morning." I don't cry when there's stuff to do, so I didn't. I made tea and my hands only shook a little spilling it. The lawyer called back at 9. She sounded like she'd been expecting my call. She said she already heard about an ex-parte order from the clerk because small town. She asked me to email her the PDF photo I took. I did. She said she'd file a motion to dissolve in the morning and ask for an emergency hearing within 48 hours. She asked a million questions fast. Had CPS come by? Did I have any texts from Ray or his mother? Had there been any police involvement? I said yes. The warning. Did the divorce decree include specific visitation language? It does. Had I let the grandparents keep the kids overnight before? Sometimes, never midweek. She told me not to talk to Ray or Mill at all, everything through her, and not to post anything online. She was calm and didn't promise me anything, which made me trust her more. She said, "Tonight, try to sleep. Tomorrow, we build." Madison turned our dining room into a war room. We dug through every text, voicemail, and old email we had. I had saved the thread where Ray called me names after I told him the kids were with Madison and Bill that first night. I had screenshots of Mill's long messages about how I was unstable and taking the kids away from their rightful family, and then in the same breath asking if I wanted a pie recipe. I had the police report number from when I called about the harassment and the officer warned Ray. I had the school therapist card and the pediatrician's info. Madison texted the leader of the community cleanup group and asked if she'd sign a simple statement that I was reliable and took my kids to events and they were clean, fed and happy. She wrote one up that night because she's a better person than me and walked it over and left it in my mailbox at 10 p.m. Bill went to the grocery store where Ray cornered me 2 months ago. The manager knows me because I volunteer with his wife. He remembered and pulled the footage of Ray following me down the aisle and blocking my cart. He couldn't give it out without a request, but he let Bill record it on his phone as a preview, and said he'd have it ready for a subpoena. He wrote a short note with his phone number. While we were doing that, Ray was on his own campaign. He texted me from a new number and wrote, "This is what you get for alienation." Then he posted on Facebook something like, "Sometimes you have to save your kids even when it hurts." People screenshotted it and sent it to me with a bunch of "Are you okay?" I didn't answer anyone. The lawyer told me to go radio silent, and it honestly felt better not feeding it. I turned off comments on my page. If people wanted to gossip, they were going to do it without my help. I didn't sleep. I folded laundry that didn't need folding and wiped down already clean counters. Every time I put a towel in the cabinet, I kept picturing my kids in those stupid cartoon pajamas at Mills, trying to figure out if they're moving. I wanted to go back and camp outside the house and make a scene. Instead, I printed more screenshots and put sticky notes on them like I was someone else's assistant. At 2 in the morning, Madison told me to lie down for an hour while she kept going. I closed my eyes and could still see that paper in Ray's hand. In the morning, the lawyer emailed me a draft. She filed a motion to dissolve the ex-parte order, attached what we had, and asked for an emergency hearing no later than 48 hours. She listed out the harassment, the warning from the officer, the nonsense CPS report with no immediate concerns, the pattern of boundary violations, unsafe park, shoe stunt, the ambush after school when they tried to corner me, and the fact that until now the kids had been living with me, doing well, and there was no reason to disrupt that. She asked for supervised visits for Ray until he completed a co-parenting class and therapy. She asked the court to order no unsupervised grandparent time for now. Reading it made me both relieved and nauseous. It felt like airing out a messy room. She told me to keep it quiet and not send it to anyone. She would serve them. Then she said pack a bag for court. I laughed because that sounded like we were going on vacation. I put some granola bars and tissues in my bag. Around noon, Phil texted me. He never texts me. He said, "I'm sorry." Then, I had to sign what she put in front of me, "I'm sorry." I stared at it. I asked, "Did you sign an affidavit?" He wrote, "She said if I didn't, she would say I wasn't protecting the kids. Please don't tell her I wrote this." I didn't answer. I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer. She wrote back noted. The kid's school therapist emailed a letter that made me cry in a weird way. It was just 2 paragraphs, very dry, saying she sees no signs of neglect, that the children are bonded with me, they have routines, and sudden changes in placement could be destabilizing. She used words like minimize harm. I printed it 3 times. The pediatrician's office faxed over a statement that the kids were current on shots, visits, and no concerns for safety had been noted. My printer was on fire at this point. At 4, the court clerk called my lawyer and gave her a time for the emergency hearing, 9 a.m., in 2 days. That's when I finally let myself think, okay, this is going to be quick. I texted my kids on their tablet, they use it for math games, it has a messaging app, and told them I loved them and that I'd see them soon. No reply. That night was worse. I kept thinking of Mill serving them sugar cereal at midnight and then telling them how mommy screams every night. I told myself I wasn't going to let the kids go anywhere alone with her again, even if the judge gave me everything and it was fine. That was actually in the lawyer's motion too. She wrote no unsupervised grandparent time pending court. Reading that made me feel like someone had my back. At 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was the officer again. He said he'd talked to the judge's clerk that afternoon and he knew the hearing was set. He said, "Don't go to their house. Anything you need to say it to your lawyer." He sounded tired. I said, "I won't." He also said he had told Ray again not to contact me. At 9:30, a car I recognized pulled up and parked a little crooked in front of my house. It was Sil. I could see her in the headlights, sitting there. Then she got out and walked to my door like someone going to the dentist. I opened it and she burst into tears before she said anything. Madison was behind me. Sil kept saying, "I can't do this to them, I can't." She came in and sat at my table, the same table Mill sat at a few weeks ago, and called me a bad mother. Sil said Mill had told her today that the judge already sees with a stable home and that the plan was to make the temporary order permanent after CPS does a full investigation. She said she nodded and smiled because that's what you do if you've grown up with Mill. Then she went into the spare room at their house where my kids were and found Mill whispering to them. She said she could hear words like "Mommy screams every night, you feel scared, right? And do you sleep locked in?" She was coaching them, that's what she called it. She said she didn't know what to do, so she took her phone out and hit record. She held it low and recorded Mill for 5 minutes feeding my kids lines. My youngest kept saying "No, Grandma," and Mill kept saying "Yes, you do, remember?" Sil's hands were shaking when she handed me her phone. Then she showed me texts with Mill. It was a weeks-long thread. Mill wrote things like, "We get the temporary order and then it's easier to make it permanent and she'll freak and look unstable." There was also a message from the day of my son's birthday party months ago, where Mill wrote, "Madison did not call you a whore, but if I tell Ray she did, will believe me and we can keep Madison away." She actually wrote that. I felt a kind of calm I haven't felt in a long time. Not happy calm, just the kind you get when someone finally shows you the monster instead of telling you you're imagining it. Sil said "I'm sorry," over and over. I asked why she was doing this now. She said because my kids were crying and because she can't keep pretending she didn't see what's right in front of her. She said Phil was hiding in the garage. She said she was going to testify if I needed her to. I believed her. She looked like someone who had finally decided to stop drowning. I sent everything to my lawyer. She called me immediately and said not to send that recording to anyone else, keep it safe, and she was going to try to get it admitted. She asked Sil if she was willing to be subpoenaed. Sil said yes. The lawyer said she'd also subpoena the CPS worker and the grocery store manager and file a request for sanctions for malicious filing. She sounded almost excited and then apologized for sounding that way. I told her I didn't care how she sounded as long as she knew what she was doing. Madison hugged Sil, which felt surreal after all the stuff between them. Sil said, "I knew Mom lied about that, but I didn't know she actually typed it out," and then laughed in a way that wasn't funny. She left around 11, after we made a copy of the voice memo and put it on a flash drive, and I put it in a drawer with our birth certificates like it was something sacred. I finally slept. Not long, about 3 hours. I dreamed my kids were playing in our yard and I was inside watching through the window, and when I ran out they'd changed into someone else's kids. When I woke up, the lawyer had texted, "We got the recording admitted subject to foundation. Be ready to testify." This could turn everything. I sat up and stared at it, then got up and showered and put on the only blazer I own even though the sleeves are a little short. I put the squishy toy my daughter gave me in my pocket. Madison made me coffee and toast, which I couldn't eat. She said she'd be there, and Bill would drop the kids at school if, God willing, they were back with me by then. We didn't say the other option out loud. We drove to the courthouse in silence. I parked and could see Ray's truck already there, and Mill's car, and Phil's, which made me think of his text. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. The building looked smaller than it felt. I took a breath. The door felt heavy. I walked in without my kids and stood in the hallway until my lawyer waved me over. I don't know what my face looked like. I know what I wanted it to look like, someone who wasn't going to let them do this without a fight. I thought of my daughter's tiny hand pushing that toy into my pocket and told myself I was doing the only thing I could do. I followed my lawyer into the courtroom. I kept my head up. I was ready to talk.